All right, next question. Moving on to Natalie. I greatly struggle with starting conversations with strangers. I guess I have the stranger danger mindset. How can I improve this?
Okay, you start this time because I've got to go first all the other times.
Okay. The stranger danger mindset's an interesting one because I think that starting conversations is one thing, and then having this fear around conversations is another. Now, when we're thinking about fear in conversations, oftentimes the reason why we're fearful is because we're in our own head worrying about what the other person thinks about us. And so if I'm ever like really uncomfortable in a conversation, generally that's why. I'm like trying to think, what is Jess thinking of me right now? And instead of me thinking about where I'm going with this topic and discussing, I'm worried about what the other person thinks. Now, the obvious solution to this is stop worrying what other people think. Now, we did an episode on this on social comparison. It's definitely worth a listen if this is something that you see in yourself. But I find it's a lot harder to actually do than it is to just explain. Stop worrying about what other people think. And there's one strategy that tends to work very well for me, and it's just understanding that everybody else is in their own heads too. Everyone else is very concerned about how they're coming across to you versus them thinking about how you're coming across to them. Like when I go out there in the world and I'm talking to people, I'm at an event, I'm never thinking, how is this person coming across to me? Like that thought never comes into any of our minds. Yet as individuals, we all think that it's the spotlight effect. We think everyone is very fixated and focused on me. And so I just keep in the back of my mind that actually nobody really cares about me. And that offers a lot of freedom for me. And the other thing that I like to do is and this actually, I feel like this came with age for me. I used to be very concerned about what other people think. And then as I've grown a little older, I'm just kind of like, I don't really care. And so I feel like a lot of that is going to come from just having more conversations, which I know is challenging. You have to, in order to become better at conversations, you just have to have more of them. And the more you're going to realize your personality will come out. The first few times are going to be a little bumpy, and that's okay. Just nobody cares and nobody notices. And even if they did notice, they don't care and they don't remember.
That's so well said. And yeah, there is something sort of freeing that comes from realizing that everybody else is in the same boat, but also everyone is so preoccupied with themselves that they're probably not thinking the way that you're thinking. It's like
Yeah.
you sort of realize that at some point. I would say like people are only strangers until you get to know them a little bit. And I would say it's a lot easier to find things in common with other people than you think, right? People seem like they're busy or they have so much going on or they're so much more interesting than everybody else or you. But the fact of the matter is, like, people do want human connection with other people. And I think just if you break down the mechanics of a conversation, one of the easiest things that you can do is to ask somebody more questions. Like, be genuinely curious when you're having a conversation. And if you're somebody who struggles with talking about yourself, like, I love hearing about other people. I don't always love being like, blah, blah, blah about me, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I don't like talking about myself that much. So I guess I do struggle with that a little bit. I like to ask other people questions. There's nothing I love more than sitting down with somebody and getting to know them. And the way to do that is to ask questions. So you could even have a few in your head that you always use in a situation if you're meeting somebody for the first time. I think a lot of people go straight for, what do you do for a living? You could be somebody that takes a slightly different approach. If you're meeting them at a party, let's say, you could ask them, oh, do you have any other plans this weekend other than this party? Or you could ask them, what do you like to do in your spare time? That question doesn't come across as often as, what do you do for a living? And so it usually stops people. And first of all, they find you interesting because you didn't ask them what their job is. And second of all, it opens a connection to maybe be able to talk about other things that you both like to do. And guess what? You probably have something in common with that person.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I actually think you're touching on a really important point. Oftentimes in these situations, I think of compliment and curiosity. So like if I meet somebody for the first time, if there's something I can compliment them on, which almost every person, if I saw them in public, like cool shirt, cool shoes, love your car. Like there's so many small little compliments that then that almost breaks the ice. The small little like seemingly insignificant compliment breaks the ice. And then curiosity. So I always try to think of like compliment them and then a level of curiosity. But curiosity, I think sometimes we try to structure it in such a way, but I like what you're getting at here, because you're just like, you're just a genuinely curious person. You just want to know what's going on with this person, what makes this person tick, what's new with them. And if you become actually truly interested in that conversation, it will always go well. And one thing that we oftentimes say in some of our training is that in a listing presentation, the person who talks the most thinks the conversation went best. And that's something to keep in mind, like whether it's a listing presentation or just meeting somebody in public. Generally, the person who's talking more comes away from that conversation as like, wow, that was a great conversation. I really like that person. And then they think about it and they're like, I talked the whole time. I don't know anything about that person. And that's the person who's talking the most generally thinks the conversation goes best. So sometimes it's not about like coming into a conversation and having the most witty, remark that you could possibly have. It's just sheer curiosity.
I like that. There you go. So compliment and curiosity equals a connection. Just
Yeah.
remember the 3 C's.
The 3 C's. There you go. Yeah. My brain works like that too. It makes it a lot easier for me to remember. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for watching or listening to this episode. Remember, you can reach out anytime at revrealestateschool.com. If you have questions, feel free to just reach out on our website, Instagram, or send us an email, and we'd be happy to answer them live on the show. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next lesson.